Hi there everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Joe and I'll be bringing you a card of the week this week for Final Fantasy TCG. This week we're going to be looking at an Opus 4 spoiled card, because Opus 4 is pretty soon on the horizon and I want to kind of bring some focus onto the cards that we might be seeing from that set. And this particular card is Leviathan, and it's another Leviathan. This is our third, I believe. And I would like to see a bit more variety in water summoned, like, you know, Siren needs to pop up at some point soon. That would be quite nice. But anyway, we have a Leviathan here, which is a 3 CP summon with an EX burst that reads, choose a forward you control and a forward your opponent controls, return them to their owner's hand. Now, this is quite a controversial card when it was spoiled, because people aren't sure whether the card is amazing or whether it's rubbish or whether you need to play it in, you know, kind of synergy with the other Leviathan that just bounces a card your opponent controls. I think the card is really, really good, provided that there is no ruling that says that you have to have a forward to bounce on both sides for it to go off. Like, hey, hopefully, you know, as long as there's a target on one side or the other that the card can resolve, otherwise it might be a bit iffy. Past that, there's a lot of combo potential with this kind of card. Being able to remove a card your opponent controls and one of your own, but without actually killing anything, can actually be really, really good in certain decks. If you run Zidane, Light Zidane, or even Win Zidane from Opus 3, or Pain obviously synergizes extremely well with this card. All of these cards that have come into play effects are very, very good. And the fact that you get to choose the forward on both sides that goes back to their hand means you can choose something that's powerful but doesn't ever come into play effect on your opponent's side, and something that has a come into play effect on your side, and then that makes it a much, much stronger card. However, obviously you do have to bear in mind that there might not always be situations where that's always the case. You might end up triggering this card on an EX burst and not wanting to use it because the reverse is true and your opponent has good come into play effects and you don't. So it's worth bearing in mind that I certainly don't think that I would run 3 of this card. I'm thinking maybe like 1 or 2. But Water already has such amazing summons that it's going to be difficult to find room for this card. And with so many good come into play effects, I've noticed that even the original Leviathan from Opus 1 is starting to see less play, and in favour of things like Famfrit, which again is another controversial card because people don't seem to know whether they like the fact that it kills a card from both sides or not. I adore Famfrit and I live by it, but not a lot, you know, not everybody does. So it remains to be seen whether this Leviathan is going to pick up the slack from the other one, or whether it will just fall to the wayside in favour of things like Cuckoo Lane or Famfrit, or, you know, even some of the draw spells that have fallen way off since Opus 1, like Moogle. You know, Water just has extremely good summons in general, and one of the exemplary kind of reasons for that is Yuna, which is 2 CP backup Yuna that says all of your water summons cost 1 less. So Leviathan being a 2-drop is a lot nicer than it being a 3-drop, because it means that you don't have to dull a backup or overpay for it. All you have to do is discard a card or dull 2 backups and there's your Leviathan. And that's always a thing worth bearing in mind with any water summon that comes out, is that Yuna pretty much is a staple in most water decks if you're running at least some summons, and cards like this is why. If I were to run this kind of card in a deck, as I said, I think Water Wind would probably be my favourite home for it, just because you get so many good come into play effects. The aforementioned cards I mentioned earlier, you have Zidane, who you're going to want to play multiple times because of his options when he comes to play. Pain, this card and Pain is crazy. You could run it with Win Zidane, as I said earlier, and sort of snipe cards out of your opponent's hand. You could run it with Bartz if you wanted to, who has kind of like the EX burst when it comes into play. You know, activate all of your wind characters, so if you're more wind heavy than water, then that's an option for you. I think that there are other options as well. I think Water Fire could use this really well with Vivi, because then you just have this kind of momentum gaining machine where you bounce one of their guys, bounce your Vivi, play the Vivi again, kill something else, because the Vivi's already come down once and hopefully killed something. So you just end up with this massive momentum swing between Legendary Vivi and Leviathan, and I think that that's a really, really cool option. And because you're in Water Fire with Vivi, you also get Zidane anyway, because if you're running Water Fire, chances are you're going to be running Final Fantasy IX search engines. So I do think that this card has a lot of potential, so I'm hoping that people will come to realise that as the card gets released. So that's it for this week's card of the week, and next week we'll hopefully be doing another Opus 4 spoiler. And it's not long now until the set comes out, so as I've said before, thank you very much for watching, and subscribe to the channel for more FFTCG content and various other things that I do. So if you enjoy the videos, obviously leave a thumbs up as you do with any other YouTube video, and I will speak to you guys again soon. So thank you again. See you later.